during those times when you feel
Yeah.
lost? How do you move forward?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. Chance.
Is it?
Yes, you could say chance. You gotta remember, money is emotions, right? A lot of money is feeling. A lot of us just think of money from this logical number standpoint, right? It's not the way money works.
What's been your biggest takeaway?
Oh boy, my biggest takeaway. There's a lot of takeaways. Whether it's marketplace kind of exposés, they're not always doing what's in your best interest.
The best outcomes come from the risk that you take, the knowledge that you basically try out yourself.
Yeah.
But in all these years, have you ever had any mentors that you've always looked up to?
100%.
Yeah?
Yeah, lots. Having people that you can talk to, having mentors, people that can kind of speak in there that you can ask those questions that have been through there, right? You guys talk about in the podcast, right? What's your why? That's what's really important. I feel like my why is just
Welcome everybody to A Little Perspective. My name is Pranav, and we have our co-host Nikhil over here. And today we have a very special guest for you guys, Scott Sather. Morning, Scott. How are you today?
Morning. I'm doing very well. Thanks, guys.
Awesome. Well, Scott, so we'll just start the podcast off by you giving us a brief introduction about yourself, just so that everybody's on the same page.
Absolutely. So a little bit about myself. Born in Saskatoon. When I was around 5 or 6 years old, we moved to Regina, and so raised in Regina. Married to my wife Julie for 8 years. 2 boys, 3 grandchildren now. I am founder, president, and financial planner at Awaken Wealth Management. I've been in the financial services industry for about 28 years, and that's kind of me.
Awesome. So Scott, what got you into that industry?
That's a fantastic question. Chance.
Is it?
Yes, you could say chance. Maybe a little higher power than that. I started out in the U of R in computer science, and that's kind of what I wanted to do. If I back up even further, I was a bag boy at Safeway at the Vic Square until I met my wife. And she said, you need to grow up and get a real job. And so then she was in university. I started taking classes. I enjoyed some of the classes, some not, but found myself pretty quickly in a little bit of student loan debt and credit card debt, because as soon as you get into university, those credit card companies are all over the place.
Totally.
And so started with the summer job at Canada Trust as a teller, and liked what I was doing, and decided, hey, maybe there's a career that I could start with through this, different education through there. And so from teller, I decided not to go back after the summer working, and just kind of continued on from there. And 28 years later, here I am.
No, because it's crazy that, when I saw, the amount of designations that you have next to your name.
Yes.
So it doesn't even sound like it's the same person we're talking to, like a person who's a bad boy to like having 5 designations to their name.
Yeah.
How was the switch? Like, I understand you told about your wife, but how was it mentally?
Mentally, what I do is really just helping people. And so it was almost kind of when I was pushing carts and bagging groceries at Safeway, I was helping people. And so it really just came down to I'm doing the same thing. People are maybe a little different, and we're more dealing with their money. But at the end of the day, a lot of it is just customer service, right? Being a nice person, showing some empathy for people's different situations, and just being able to do planning, and a lot of that was learned through those designations. Like the Certified Financial Planner designation, the Chartered Investment Manager designation. Those are designations to kind of help you learn a little bit more on those. But I mean, the industry really doesn't focus enough on, a lot of it is behavioral, and just, being able to listen to people, hear where they're at, and just being able to be a nice guy, honestly, because that's what people want is someone that can be on their side and talk to them in a way that's not belittling and talking down to them, honestly.
For somebody who's been in this industry for 28 years, and you made a switch from computer science, then Subway and Safeway and all that.
Yeah.
What advice do you have for somebody who just graduated from the university
Oh, boy.
and they don't know what to do? Like
Yeah.
you study all these courses at the university and you think that's what I want to do in my life. But when you actually go and do the work, you realize, oh, this is completely different.
Totally.
So what advice do you have for?
Yeah, that's always my question for folks that I talk to that are in university. And I say, what are you going to do when you grow up? What do you want to be? And I find that, you still have to be open, right? It's great that you've got the degree. The degree does a great job in helping you, think about things differently. But I mean, a lot of it is that life experience, right? The school of hard knocks, so to speak. Well, I don't have a finance degree. I would say I do have that experience of that school of hard knocks, actually living and working through it. So my advice would just be being open. Just because you think you want to do one thing doesn't mean that's the thing you have to do, right? My career, I've worked for a number of different companies in semi-different roles during that time. A lot of it was kind of a leading to get that way. But yeah, for someone that's just kind of starting out, who's just got that degree, certificate that's under their belt now, just being open to kind of see what actually you like doing, being willing to try some different things, to see how you can apply that degree to different, you could do something like a psychology degree and that actually could work very well in finance. You could do a finance degree and that could work in, starting up a business or, just different things. It's not kind of all lockstep that, be a teacher that doesn't, you can
Right.
still be a financial advisor and teaching people about investing. Yeah, there's no kind of set path, I would say. So just be open to what's out there.
And I feel like if you genuinely have the motivation, I want to scratch motivation. Like if you genuinely have the drive
Yeah.
to learn something and you're like genuinely hungry, you'll make ways yourself. I feel like it's just like very self-limiting to think that I'm only bound to one thing and one thing only.
Absolutely.
'Cause,
Absolutely.
like you yourself, like you've done so many different things over these past 28 years, like you mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't just because you were a one-track mind person.
No, for the most part, it wasn't, right? My title changed over that time. I had looked at different parts of the career, of my career, my time when I was at the big green bank. I had looked at becoming like a fund wholesaler, meaning that I would work for the fund company and talk to advisors about selling their funds. That was kind of something I thought that I would be interested in. But I had a young family at the time. And that trade-off of maybe making a little bit more income, getting more travel, and doing that meant that I was leaving my wife at home, my kids at home, and not being able to spend that time with them during those early years. So, just being able to think some of those things through as well, and just finding what works for you, right? Everyone's different.
Like as you say that, be open to things and be okay to switch, be flexible.
Mm-hmm.
There's moments when you feel completely lost, right?
Yeah.
You just making a switch and you're like, am I making the right decision? What am I doing? Like, did you ever go through that? And like, how did you push forward?
Yeah, my career trajectory or my career timing hasn't been the greatest. Like when I made my first switch, career-wise, to a 100% commission job was in 2000. Right when we had the big dot-com
bubble. Yeah.
bubble. We had, right after that, we had the Iraq War, we had 9/11, we had basically a recession, which was not the best time to make a change in the markets. Next time I made a switch was 2007, which was right before the 2008 financial crisis. I made the last one was in 2021, so we were already kind of in COVID. So I knew I had my eyes wide open when that one happened. But yeah, and I forgot your question as I was going through that. What was your question again?
So during those times when you feel lost, how do you move forward?
Yeah, having a good network behind you definitely helps, right? Having people that you can talk to, having mentors, people that can kind of speak in there that you can ask those questions that have been through there, right? Having that guide, so to speak, that's already walked the path to be able to say, am I heading in the right direction? That's a big part of it.
Right.
Having the support system behind you, whether it's family or friends, to kind of walk you through some of that. And then, just being able to stay committed to that path to a certain point, right? My first foray, I was at Edward Jones for a few years. Loved what I was doing. Wasn't making any money doing it. Again, during that 2000 to 2003, when the markets weren't doing all that well, people would say, Scott, you're a really nice guy. I'll give you a little bit of money, but I'm going to keep the rest of my money back here. And unfortunately, you don't make a whole lot of money when you do that. And so there came a point when I had to kind of decide, do I cut ties and move on to something else, which would actually be probably going back to what I was doing before, or do I try and continue to pursue this, and who knows what failure would look like, right? So also being open to, again, as that situation evolves, being open to look at different directions when that happens. Like I said before, if just because you're going in that one direction doesn't mean that's necessarily the way you need to stay. Right. You got to take wise counsel and then make those decisions from there.
And you mentioned just before as well that there are certain trade-offs in life. When you mentioned that, okay, I have my wife at home, have 2 young children, I have to look after them too. And sometimes those decisions lead you to playing a situation that's basically called playing it safe. Mm-hmm. So have you always had that? Like, and I'll shout out Ben Tingley, like our previous guest here.
Yeah.
He gave us this term called the entrepreneurial itch. Mm-hmm. So given, of course, you have to play certain situations pretty safe.
Yep.
But have you always had that entrepreneurial itch inside of you? Like you always knew you want to do something of your own?
Yeah, I would say so. I like that idea of that freedom and that independence to be able to be the one that's the decision maker. I was in enough situations, having worked for a number of big banks, bigger organizations, where the bigger decisions were made for you. Right? You didn't have the input to say simple things like what kind of technology you're going to use, or where the office is located, and those types of things. And that really drove that desire to want to be able to do that. Obviously, there's the benefits of entrepreneurship, right? The risk and reward, right? You take a lot more risk as an entrepreneur, but you better get something back for it. So the reward from the financial side, from the flexibility side, right? That you make your own schedule. There's definitely those benefits to it. But like for me personally, yeah, I would say I always wanted to do it. It was just in different forms as I kind of made the switches. I had like an independent office when I was at Edward Jones. When I went back to the Green Bank, I was with TD Waterhouse Financial Planning. Again, more in the branch, kind of dictated, here's your hours, here's when you need to be in here. And then I moved to RBC Dominion Securities for a number of years. I was there for about 14 years, a lot more flexible, but still being told by someone that, hey, this is the way that this kind of works, right? This is the stuff you're going to do. And so when I started Awaken Wealth, that was part of those drivers, right? That I wanted to be able to provide a better client experience for my clients. And the way that I felt that it was being done there, I just wasn't able to do it. And so it took risk in doing it, leaving through 2021. It was May of 2021 when I made the switch, kind of still in that unknown of COVID. And so, it was a big risk, but yeah, it had a big payoff to where we are today, for sure.
So, there was this post that I read on Instagram that if you have $10 in your pocket and you don't have any debts, you're 25% richer, wealthier than most Americans.
Yeah.
Like, where do people go wrong in their finance, right?
Wow. Yeah.
Where does it start?
Where does it start? The books and that kind of would say it comes down to the latte factor, those little things that you do that kind of snowball and add up. And I would probably agree with that, right? It's those smaller decisions, but it's more the mindset, I think, is what gets you there in the beginning. That talk to people, and it's, there's those, are you a spender or a saver, right? People that are savers tend not to get into that situation. People that are spenders, that's, where maybe that can kind of come from. It's not an easy question to answer, because circumstances obviously can play into that a little bit, right? You know, losing a job, having, you know, something happen outside of your control that puts you in that spot. But I mean, some simple finance things, you know, can help by, you know, building up an emergency fund, you know, putting a little bit of money away just in case. Try not to go in debt. Right? Don't spend more than you have. But I mean, it's a hard thing to do these days. It's not cheap to live, right? Prices keep going up. Taxes take a big chunk of the money we actually make. But I mean, also there's lots of help out there too, right? Not just from like a handout standpoint, but more a hand up, right? There's different services, there's different places that you can go to get that advice that can kind of help you start building back up from that. Whether that's, you know, someone maybe at the bank or, you know, some organization. There's a number I know in town that will do different financial presentations for folks, just to try and get them back up and going, right? It's going to take some time and some help to do it, and you know, a lot of it is up here, right? We're ingrained in the way we do things for 18 plus years as kids. You know, we see mom and dad do things, we see that, and that really puts an imprint on us as to what that looks like going forward. And some of that stuff's hard to change. And so, but it can, right? It definitely can. You know, I've seen it personally. So yeah, it's being open again to be able to do that change.
And speaking of which, what's been your biggest takeaway working 28 years in the financial industry? Because you worked in, like you mentioned, multiple different companies, multiple different roles, and then now starting your own thing.
Yeah.
What's been your biggest takeaway?
Oh boy, my biggest takeaway. There's a lot of takeaways.
If you want to give us top three.
Top three in what, I guess, context? Where do you want me to go with that? Because there's a lot of different places. There's a lot of places I can go with that.
Right.
I'll try.
In your case, I would say, like, you know, like somebody
from like in a business, from a client, from just an individual. Which way do you want?
Let's talk business, client, and individual.
Okay, all three. Okay. Business. Yeah, I mean, I think coming back to your entrepreneur question, I mean, it takes a special person to be that entrepreneur, because it does take risk, right? And a lot of our society and a lot of the thought process today is kind of driving more towards there shouldn't be return for that risk. And I feel there should be, right? No one wants to take risk if you're not going to get something back for it, right? You're not going to cross that road. You're not going to get out of bed if you're not going to get something for it. And so you're not going to invest in that business if you're not. So there has to be that return there. And so for me, from a business standpoint, it's just looking for what you're going to get out of it, whether it's monetary, whether it's, you know, that work-life balance, you know, that can be a big one. That's definitely one side of it. From an individual standpoint, I mean, I don't want to be conspiracy theory or anything, but don't trust the big marketing machine that's out there. There's a lot of money that is made in financial services, and it's not necessarily made by the individual investors. And it's because there's that trust. We're Canadians. We like our big institutions. And so we just trust them. We think that they're doing what's best for us. But when we've seen time and time again where, you know, whether it's, you know, CBC Marketplace kind of exposés or what have you, where they're not always doing what's in your best interest. So, I mean, finding, and it's hard to do, but finding someone that will actually act in your best interest. Obviously, the first person is going to be yourself, right? You're going to look out for you first. But finding someone who will act in your best interest is a big part in finding that. And then on the investor standpoint for your third one, kind of almost goes back to that second one. You know, you don't need to make things overly complicated. There's the acronym, right? KISS, keep it simple, stupid. I mean, that's cool. A big part of it, right? Just keep it simple. For the most part, the more simple it is, the easier it is to do and the easier it is to stick with. Having something, even something just building up a portfolio, you can build it with multiple stocks or mutual funds or ETFs, or you can just buy a nice little elegant, simple one line that gives all that stuff in. Just buy the one thing because it'll make it a heck of a lot easier for you to stick with it long term. Yeah. Yeah, good.
I want to talk to you about the credit cards. Like that's one of the biggest things. So you've got people like, I don't know, like Robert Kiyosaki that, oh, you should leverage debt. You should have credit cards. You should buy credit cards. Then you've got Dave Ramsey, who's like, no debts at all.
Yeah.
Like, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I'll lean more Dave's way. Just in the debt is a thing that can get you in a lot of trouble, right? I look at myself, right? When I first started out as a student, I got a BMO Air Miles MasterCard for a limit of $1,800. And I went out and bought a new Kenwood system for my car and got the 6x9s and maxed that sucker out pretty quick. That was not good for someone who had no real income. And so, starting off in life, that was really tough. Right? Being in debt is not good. There's good debt and there's bad debt, right? Something like a house, that's a good debt, right? You've got an actual asset that's not growing a ton, but it is growing in value. And it has some ability to live in it and use it. A vehicle, car system, maybe not the best thing to get into debt, right? Definitely the car system was not a great idea. Sounded good, but not a great idea. So it has to be smart debt, right? If it's something that you're investing in that's like, there's a tangible asset you have there. So we're talking like a house, we're talking like a business. Even I'd go so far as like a rental investment or an income producing investment where that debt is also tax deductible. There's some good to that. But other debts, definitely get those paid off as quickly as possible. Try not to get into it very deep. And like credit card debt, stay away from credit card debt as much as you can. My take on it is take advantage of the credit card. You get rewards, you get those things to use it. But treat it like it's your bank account, right? Only spend what you actually have available and you can pay it off every month because 20.99% on a credit card is
insane.
Yes, it is very insane. Take a long time to get out of that kind of debt.
And I just want to know, so having two kids and their dad being so knowledgeable in like this financial industry.
Yeah.
How has their upbringing been, when it comes to finances, when it comes to managing all these things?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
We never really had money talks, right? Like directly money talks. I have two very different boys. One will, not that he's like, one's more of a spender, one's more of a saver. But he's kind of a saving spender still, like he'll still save. But he's willing to spend when he wants to. When he thinks there's some value. And I believe that too, right? I think spending is good when you're spending for more of an experience, right? Something that's less, more tangible. The other one, very much saver. I remember many times we'd go to the Lego. He was a big Lego guy. And we'd go to the store. We'd have that Lego set in hand, get to the till and, okay, it's too much money. I'm going to put it down. I don't want to spend that money. So, and he's still like that today. Willing to spend on some things, but like there was never really that conversation there. It was more seeing the life experience, right? Seeing how we did things, I would say, and then talking about a little bit about that when those kind of things happened, right? Big purchases. Like again, we really didn't talk about it. They were more like, I don't drive a really expensive car. I'm not a big fan of driving it because I think a car's something to get me from point A to B. Right. It's definitely a depreciating asset. As soon as I drive it off the lot, it's gone down in value, right? But having said that, I buy new vehicles. And it's not because of it being a depreciating asset, it's because I'm a knucklehead and don't know how to fix a car. And so if something breaks down or something breaks down for my wife, I want the ability just to go into the dealer and say, here you go. I don't have to worry about finding a mechanic that I can trust and having it fixed. I know that it's covered for a certain period of time. Yeah, so I mean, from the boys' standpoint, that's a good question. I would almost like to hear them answer that question. And I might have to ask them that now that you've brought that up. But yeah,
100%.
I feel like it was more just that lived experience
Right.
and then kind of talking through those things versus dad preaching at them to
Totally.
the way they should do things.
And to bring it full circle, now that
yeah.
your son is working, one of your boys
Yes.
is working with you, how's that experience been?
Oh, it's been fantastic.
Always
Yes.
a proud moment, hey?
What's that?
Always a proud moment.
Yeah, very much so. Very much so. Yeah. So he started in September, just in the process of getting licensed, writing his exams. So he's got those all passed, and now he's just in his 90 days. So it should be like at the end of April that he's kind of licensed and able to be able to meet with clients. And we've been meeting with clients all throughout. But yeah, it's a proud moment in just being able to teach him the industry and the way I think it should be taught versus the way kind of, not necessarily the way that I was taught was the wrong thing, but like the financial services industry is a very sales-oriented industry, and it still should be. But I think it should be a professional industry, right? If you look at accountants and lawyers and doctors that we would deem as professionals, sales is still part of their job that they have to do, right? An accountant and a lawyer still needs to close the sale to get clients to work with them, but it's not over the top about sales. And so I think our industry needs to do a better job in that as well, in just evolving to more of this professional standard where we're more focusing on what's important, the client reaching their goals versus the firm or the industry reaching those revenue goals, right?
Totally.
And so that's what it's kind of been more about in training him, is hopefully that's all kind of rubbing off the right way as we go along.
And I feel like that's what like life is all about too, that the experiences that you've gained, you now have the choice to decide, okay, this is what worked out perfectly. This is what I would eradicate
Absolutely.
from the whole thing.
Yes.
And then he himself can come up with his own, basically own ideals,
Exactly.
own values that,
Totally.
further
Yep.
for his kids that you mentioned.
100%. Yeah. Like I get to be the guinea pig, and then he gets to have the better way of kind of learning it, right? And I feel like that's there's a lot of really good firms that are out there that are doing it that way. Even something as simple as how you're compensated, right? To try and take some conflict of interest out by, instead of a eat what you kill commission type idea, more of a salary with some level, because you still need some incentive in there, whether it's a bonus or some sort of commission kind of incentive in there. But it's more focused on servicing the client so that they're getting what they need, right? Versus selling them a product and then moving on to the next person. Kind of thing.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
So, as an advisor, from an advisor's perspective, in that field, there's people who are doing really good work, who are good to people, who are trustworthy, and then there's people who are doing some really bad work. And because of that, like there's more compliance rules that are getting put out. There's more like KYC stuff that's being put out. Like, what sets these people apart?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say, a lot of it is, there's good people that work in bad companies, and there's bad people that work in good companies. And it's hard to know those. And it really comes down to who's working for the client at the end of the day, right? Who's doing what's in the client's best interest? To me, KYP and KYC, KYC is know your client for those outside. KYP is know your product. Those are two things that we shouldn't even need. Like those should be automatic things. I feel like if you're doing real financial planning for clients, you know the client, right? You know their financial situation. You know where they're at. Whether you're checking a box on a form, you have to do that to keep compliance happy and the regulators happy. But it really comes down to really knowing that client's situation, where they're at, what's important to them, because that's a big part of it too. What's important to me is going to be different for you guys and everybody else, right? And so that's what's really matter. That, like you guys talk about in the podcast, right? That what's your why? That's what's really important. You've got to know that for clients. That's kind of the table stakes, so to speak. And if you do that, then I think everything else kind of falls in place.
Right.
Yeah.
And before like I had another question in mind, but since you brought it up,
Yeah.
perfectly good time to like, when the guest just says it, I'm
Good
like, yo, it's a
segue,
good
eh?
sign.
Yeah.
Then Scott, what's your why?
Oh boy, what is my why? Yeah, I always have trouble with this one, to be honest.
You
I'd
brought it up, eh?
Yeah, I brought it up, and I shouldn't have, but I knew it was coming. And I only say that because I've listened to the Simon Sinek TED Talk, and I've got his book, and I haven't read it yet, but I have it on the list.
Right.
And kind of drawing out what is my why, and I feel like my why is just serving people. Just to have that kind of servant heart to help people in whatever way that is, and that kind of translates into the business side of things, the personal life side of things, those are basically two. The family life side of things, I guess,
100%.
as well, right? Just to serve people. I think that's kind of what we're put here for to do. So
Right, exactly. And you mentioned like, serving people and like, giving them the limelight, giving them the spotlight is important to you.
yeah.
So what kind of atmosphere have you built in your business? Like the type of people that you bring on, because when you have your why clear, you need like like-minded people for that stuff too.
Totally.
Right?
Yeah.
So how does, if I walk into your office, how does that look like? What kind of people am I going to meet?
Well, I mean, it's mostly family right now.
Yeah.
So, and the office is at home. So you'd be walking into my home. So you can definitely see what it looks like. I mean, people that have that same mind, right? The idea is to focus on putting the client first, right? In everything that we do, making sure that it makes sense. Like in every decision, we make sense, whether it's, the technology that we use, whether even it's like the dealer we use in the background, the way we charge fees, that it makes sense and is in the best interest for the client. In an ideal world, we wouldn't charge anything because that's what's in the best interest of the client, right? If they don't have to pay fees, that's great. Unfortunately, I can't make a living doing off of that, so it doesn't quite work. So making sure that you're not, I see places that charge fees that have, they're huge fees. They probably provide a lot of value, but it's just not needed. So people that have that same mindset is kind of what we're trying to foster, right? Let's do what's in the best interest, focus on the client. When I said my roles there, so my title is founder, president, and financial planner of Awaken Wealth Management. But the way the industry works, that's my financial planning and insurance side. The investment side is I'm a portfolio manager of Awaken Investments of Aligned Capital Partners. I don't do the whole thing because it's just way too much. But that portfolio manager side means that I have a fiduciary duty to my clients. So I have to do legally what's in their best interest. And that's just not the case for most of the Canadian financial services industry, where we just have to do what's suitable, right?
Right.
So it's kind of going into your tailor to get your suit done up for your wedding. The tailor, if it's suitable, right, it just has to fit. Whereas the fiduciary wants it to fit, but he also wants to make sure it looks good on you, and your wife is going to be impressed with how you look when you actually walk up to say those vows. So doing what's in that best interest in the client is always kind of what comes first.
Solid.
Okay, let's talk about some advice.
Okay, let's do it.
So, talking about a house, I know you were talking about FHSA as well. When do you think is a good time to buy a house? Because for sure, like you're buying an asset, you're getting a mortgage, but it comes with a lot of costs, right? You got to pay property taxes, you got to pay maintenance. Like there's so many overhead costs, right?
Yeah.
Where is the good time?
Yeah, that's a great question. Like 15, 20 years ago. That's a good time.
The ideal time.
Yeah, right. And there's a lot of there's actually some good research that's out there. Just talking about that buying and renting. Right? Renting is kind of something that's poo-pooed and seen as you should not rent, you should own. And I mean, a lot of the research actually shows, well, no, there's actually some good, sound reason for renting. But like in terms of buying, I'm not a realtor. Ideally, you're buying just like everything you want to buy when the market's low and sell when it's high. To me, a house is a little bit different, right? Because it's somewhere you're going to live. I say now is the best time to buy. It doesn't matter where interest rates or prices are, because we're talking about somewhere where you're going to live, right? But then it's more what you're buying, right? If we're talking about a house, you don't want to get overextended on that mortgage and get yourself into financial trouble. I feel like a lot of people want to get into the same place where they left, right? I'm thinking of students, right? You're with mom and dad for a number of years, you get used to, accustomed to that lifestyle, go through school and you start on your own, and you want to kind of get back to that lifestyle pretty quick. And it can take some time to get to that, right? Mom and dad probably didn't buy that house as their first house. I look at ourselves, like we've bought 8 houses, I think, during our time here in Regina. Yeah, it's a lot of houses. 4 of those were built as well.
Wow.
So, yeah, just making sure you're not getting over your head in the debt. You want to make sure you've got lots of room, you got a good down payment that's built up, which is tough. I get that. But then whatever you do have for that down payment, you're not trying to max out what you're getting for the house itself, right? There are starter homes that are lower cost. They might not be the best out there. They might, need some tender love and care to get them to where you want, some paint and some carpet, and just to get them so that they're livable in. But that's a place to start, right? It doesn't have to be your place forever, and that kind of gets you the entryway into the market, so then you can kind of continue your way up from there. But I'm a big fan of starting earlier versus later, for sure. I've always liked the idea of owning versus renting.
Yeah.
Again, there's a lot of research that shows, though, between those two, do you own or do you rent and then invest the difference? Because there is, like you said, there's extra costs that come in when you own a house, right? Just because even with a brand new house, there's still a lot of money you got to put into it, even after you've stroked the check and bought the house. And that never ends, right? There's always upkeep that you have to do on it. So when you take that into account, the two can be very valid, right? In different cases and in different seasons of life.
And there's pros and cons of each in the end, right?
Absolutely.
And me personally, like I know you guys are talking about this from like a more financial standpoint. I kind of think of it like from a human standpoint, that let's say this, like say for example that, I want to move around. I want to like not travel in the sense, but like say for example that my job's going to take me to certain places.
Yep.
A house is just going to hold you down. And I'm not saying like, oh, don't buy a house. Like a house is a bad investment.
Yeah.
I just think like you should buy a house when you're genuinely ready to settle down. Like say for example, like, in your case, you have a family.
Yep.
Right? That's a good time to settle down. But if you're single and you know that, okay, you can still go from province to province.
Yeah.
Then buying a house and holding yourself down doesn't really make sense, because then you're basically stopping yourself from actually exploring.
For sure.
I know that's the way I look at it. It may not be the most like financially sound decision, but sometimes I feel like you should buy it when you're ready to like settle down. You're like, hey, this is going to be my base point.
Yeah. And a lot of money, you got to remember, money is emotions, right? A lot of money is feelings. And if a lot of us just think of money from this logical number standpoint, right? It's not the way money works, because money is attached to feelings and emotion. And so some of that totally makes sense, right? Like it might make 100% sense for you still to buy a house, but from an emotional standpoint, it's not the best time, right? So being able to realize those two things, and I think that's also where an advisor can come in and provide some of that that value, and being able to say, logically, it's the Spock and Captain Kirk side of things, right? It's Star Trek, Spock's all logic, but logic doesn't always pan out in situations. You need some of that feeling and emotion there to be able to make the right decision.
You think that's where Scott comes in, who's logical and emotional?
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely.
Flexible and rigid.
That's right.
There we go.
Yeah, awesome. So when you talk to a lot of clients, like you've been doing this for a while, right?
Yeah.
Do you see a lot of people who struggle with mortgage or these kind of debts? Like what's the biggest thing people struggle with?
I mean, credit card debt's still a big thing, for sure. Getting their spending under control is a big thing. I hate budgeting,
Really?
personally.
Oh, wow.
And just the reason why I say that is, I think budgeting is great. I think people should do it. What I don't like about budgeting is it just takes a couple of expenses that you forgot to budget in to throw the whole thing off track, right? So I could have the perfect budget, but I forgot about, Aunt Susan, who I've got this party that we're going to there, and there goes my budget, right? It's thrown the whole thing out and messes it up. Birthday presents, right? You've got to really have a good idea, and there's lots of great apps and things now that'll let you do it. Most banks, have a connecting that'll, do a pretty good job of showing you here's where you're spending your money. So I mean, it's good, but you have to hold that budget loosely. It can't be like a rigid type thing. It has to have that flexibility to factor in some of those unanticipated expenses that are in there.
I was just gonna say, sometimes you just don't know when shit hits the fan, and you're like,
Totally.
my car broke down. Now what? Well, that wasn't in the budget.
Yeah, exactly, right? And so obviously that cash flow planning is a big part of it, right? And that's where a lot of people get in trouble. A lot of people get in trouble for spending more than they make, and then looking at credit to kind of build that. Now, there are ways that you can use credit in a smart way. Again, like using your house as that equity for like a home equity line of credit. So you got your mortgage, and you're using the equity you have in the house to secure like a line of credit. So you're able to reduce some of those borrowing costs, and that can be a really smart way to do it. But I mean, the most successful people that I see, it's pretty simple, right? They just spend less than they make, and they're able to save that difference. The golden rule,
basically, in the end.
What's that?
Like the golden rule, basically. In the end.
Yeah, absolutely, right? It's very hard for it to be very, very financially successful if it's the opposite.
Totally.
If you continue to spend more than you make, unless you have a really good pension or something that's forcing you to save for down the road, it's going to be hard for you to be financially successful down the road.
And in like these 20 years that you talk about, like all your experiences, of course, the best outcomes come from like, the risk that you take, the knowledge that you basically try out yourself.
Yeah.
But in all these years, have you ever had any mentors that you've always looked up to?
100%. Yeah, lots. Yeah. I've been part of a pretty good advisor community that's pretty open. Even surprisingly, in some of the offices that I've worked at, the openness of other advisors to open up the doors and be very transparent in the way they do things. There's a good community that I'm a part of with the same thing. I mean, we tend to think of we're all competing as advisors, that we're competing and we're trying to get each other's, we're all competing for the same people. And to a certain degree we are, but there's enough people in Canada that need that advice that we really aren't at the end of the day. So in my hindsight, if we're all successful and we all kind of push that standard higher, it just means it's a win-win, right? So when I look at the type of mentors that I've had in the past, it's been just, being able to have different conversations and them being brutally honest and open about things.
Right.
And that's really been, usually successful. And that translates into the way I do things as well, right? I'm a pretty open book in talking to younger advisors, right? And going for coffee. I'm always open to be able to do that and do some of that mentoring, because I think there's kind of a right way to do this business. And so the more people that are doing it that right way, then I think the better the business is.
And I was just going to come to that too. So in my mind, I feel like anybody can be a mentor who, of course, has more knowledge than you. Mm-hmm. But what's an ideal mentor? What sets apart a good mentor versus a person who just knows stuff, but I wouldn't really go to him for mentorship?
For sure. I think they have to be transparent, right? And by being transparent, that will lead you into that if they are a good mentor or not.
Right.
If they're open and transparent and they're being honest about that, honesty has to be part of it as well. And they're sharing the way that they've done things and the successes and the failures, because you need both sides of those, right? If you just focus on the success, a lot of that success happened because of the failure, right? You need to fail to be able to succeed. And I mean, I can look at my own story and see that over those years. I wouldn't be where I am today had I not gone through those tougher years. But to be able to relay those, maybe so that next generation and those next people don't have to go through that, or they can go through it eyes wide open again, and that can make a huge difference. So to me, like that transparency and honesty is a big part of that mentor, and accountability, right? On both sides. If you're both being honest and transparent, but there isn't that accountability at the end of the day of someone saying, hey, you did this wrong, or there's a better way you could have done this. Why'd you do it this way? I don't know if you get as much benefit out of it. I mean, if you just take the wisdom, but you're not actually applying it, well, then that's where that
It's just locked
accountability
up here
comes
in the
in,
end.
right?
Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah. Wisdom that stays up here doesn't do a whole heck of a lot of good. It has to be applied and done, right?
Yeah,
It
that's
has to
what
be
we
action.
also like. We've been talking about that for a long time. That your ideas don't mean anything unless there's execution.
Even in business, like you can have the most brilliant idea, but if
Yeah.
you can't execute it, it means nothing.
Yeah.
It's just in your head. That's it.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. How many business plans have there been that have just kind of gone to the side? A great business plan and it never actually got done, right?
Right.
And there's people that are like, there are people that have those great ideas, but they're maybe not the people that are the executors of those ideas, right? They're not able to get the things done. And that's where kind of some of that teamwork can come in as well.
Totally.
So I'll just move to this. We started this podcast on this idea that stories are a very powerful tool, right? And of course, you talk to clients, like stories connect people, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And stories make a huge difference in people's lives. Has there been any story while growing up that you like, could be fiction, could be somebody in a family, could be a movie you watch, you were like, what? I'm really inspired by that story.
Yeah. Oh man, there's lots of stories if I think of it. I mean, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Donald Miller and Storybrand. He kind of talks about basically just that, right? Talks about the hero being kind of the emphasis of the story, the guide that kind of walks them through, and that's kind of and then the event that kind of happens, and the hero either succeeds or fails, right? And that's kind of all. If you look at all movies that are out there, that's kind of it. There's lots of stories. I'm a big Star Wars nerd, Lord of the Rings, and all those kind of things. So those are kind of the stories that kind of always echo, that I like. Comic books as well. So Avengers and all that. Batman, Superman. But yeah, I don't know if that's really where you were going with that question, if you're looking for something deeper on that story side or not. But yeah, I mean, those are kind of the stories that I've always kind of been drawn towards, for sure.
And doesn't
Was
have
there-
to be, right? Like,
Yeah.
like it can be like, even like, feel like in our case too, sometimes like I got really inspired by the Batman trilogy by Christopher Nolan.
Yeah.
Insane.
Absolutely.
Gave me
Absolutely.
insane goosebumps.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and I mean, Luke Skywalker, right? Finds out his dad is Darth Vader, and then has to. Yeah, I mean, there's lots of them, right?
Totally.
So it's pretty cool.
One of my favorites is the Kung Fu Panda. Have you seen
Yeah.
Oh
that?
yes, oh absolutely.
That
Yes.
movie is actually really, really deep.
It is, yeah, and you can
100%.
get very deep in some of these movies, right? Lord of the Rings, another good example, right? It's you can get pretty deep on the different, whether it's Frodo or Aragorn or whatever those characters, even Gandalf. There's those books that they're based off of, right? Those aren't short books; they're
Totally.
pretty thick, and a whole world. Tolkien came up with like a whole bunch of different languages to be able to do those books, Elfish and the Dwarf language, and there's a lot of thought that goes into them, right? So yeah, it's cool.
We love this movie, The 300.
Oh yeah, 300.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
The first one, the second one was kind of ass, but
Yeah, no, the second one was not good at all.
but the first one though.
But the first one was good. Yes.
Yeah, I feel like that's a story.
What's that?
That's a story. The way it
Yes.
was narrated, the way it was told.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah, there's a few of those, right? There's like I have a few of the streaming services, just like everybody else, that they're there. But there's still those movies. 300 is one. Tombstone is one. Even the latest Top Gun.
Maverick?
Maverick, right? That one I bought just because I just like the story. I want to be able to keep it, right?
Yeah.
Are you more of like a movies person or a TV series person?
Probably movies.
Yeah?
Yeah. But I can do both. Yeah, depending on what the series is, for sure.
And like one question that I just had for Scott, and just like so that everybody also just gets a taste of this too.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned failures are really important, right?
Yeah.
And in these 28 years, of course, there's not going to be a successful career without failures.
Totally.
What's been the most difficult time you've faced?
The most difficult time I faced. Yeah, like I would probably say going back to 2003 when I had to leave Edward Jones, my first kind of career. Like the whole setup to that was kind of totally out of my control. I was at Canada Trust at the time. I had a few different companies that were kind of courting me, if you will, kind of saying, hey, you should come work with us. I went down the avenue with the one, and they ended up saying I was too young. And then I decided I wanted to move up to the next position that I was in, and I needed to take my Canadian securities course to do that. And so, but it was a big expense. At that point in time, we had just had our first child. We had the mortgage. My wife wasn't working, and so it was a big risk for us to do that. But we decided, no, we should, because of the long-term career perspective and ability to earn a higher wage income going forward. And so stroked the check, sent it in the mail. And then during that next week, I had a meeting with Edward Jones, who said, hey, if you do this, if you come to us, we'll pay for your course. And I'm like, I just sent the check in the mail, man, that sucks. That next week, got the envelope back, returned to sender for some reason. No idea why, but the envelope with that check came back. And so I had a feeling that kind of being guided to go down that path. And so we went down that path. It was good. The training was fantastic. I got a little, the first year in the job was commission, was salary, and then it was commission after that. And I got a little comfortable. I had some success in the beginning and wasn't working as hard for that second year. And to end up having to leave and to go through those conversations with my wife, to go through some of the conversations with them, and then at the end have those conversations with clients and say, hey, I valued us having this relationship, but I just can't do it anymore. That was really tough, right? You have these people that have trusted you, not a lot of them, unfortunately, but those ones that did trust you with their life savings and wanted to, you were their guy. You were the person that was kind of advising them on that way. And then to say to them, sorry, it failed. I can't do this anymore. You got to find someone else. Those were tough conversations to have, right? And so that built in, I really didn't want to have those conversations ever again. And so that kind of drove some of that success going forward, for sure. And, but yeah, that would be probably one of those failures, I say, that kind of defined part of it, that kind of led to everything kind of going forward after that.
And how did the tough conversations shape you as a man in your mind?
Yeah. As a man, having tears about those kind of things isn't the kind of thing you think you would do, because you're not supposed to, right? Especially back in 2000. They were tough. Like, they were conversations, prayerful conversations with my wife in trying to figure out what was the best direction that we should do. Swallowing my pride, because I was going back to the job I had before. So I was Canada Trust when I left. I went back to TD Canada Trust on the new job, basically the exact same position, basically the exact same income. I was extremely overqualified for the job given the experience I now had and the the education and everything. But I knew that was what was best for my family at that point in time, and so. That really just built in being able to swallow some of that pride, right? That was the thing that was holding me on the most, was probably pride, and saying pride and the failure in those clients' eyes, right? Them thinking, failure in their eyes and also in my family's eyes, right? I had done this thing, it didn't work out, but I didn't want it. There was still, it was that thing where there was ton of potential that was still there, and there was many months where there was that potential, and it just big clients or stuff that could happen that just never did. And so at eventually it was just we've got to kind of cut and pull bait right from it and move on to something else. And so it was a hard decision to make, but again, from a character standpoint, it definitely built character and being able to realize that we had to take what was best for the family, and for me really wasn't that course that we were on, right? We had to make a change, and it worked out. Like, within, I think, 3 or 6 months, I moved into a different position. The income
shot up
very, very quickly, and I was back doing what I was doing before, even better than I was doing before, because it was more financial planning versus what I was doing. I was more of a investment side of things, which is good, but the value an advisor brings is really that financial planning for sure. So yeah, it was a good change.
So you said that during that time you had your first child. How was being a dad for you?
Dad's is awesome. Grandpa's better. Grandpa's better. Dad was awesome. Yeah, we had our first, and then when I was at Edward Jones, we had our second as well. Yeah, there's no experience like it, right? To be able to, you talk about mentoring. There is no better mentoring than having a child, and watching them grow up and kind of mold and see their character build as they go on. Yeah, I mean it's an experience, and now to see them as parents and building into grandkids, yeah, it's incredible.
And I feel like it just, what's it called? You just have to pull up your socks as soon as you become a dad too.
Totally.
Look at how that molded you into the person you are now.
Yeah,
is going to mold your children.
absolutely.
And of course, I'm pretty sure that they're amazing
Yes,
human beings.
absolutely.
Right. But I feel like those situations really show you that, okay, I can't slack.
Yeah.
I can't.
There was that
fuck around.
moment for sure, right? When
Right.
I remember the moment with our first guy. He was in the NICU because he was premature, I think 5 weeks. But coming out of the hospital, leaving him there, and not even when we brought him home with us, and just thinking, okay, I got this bit. Now what? And it definitely changes, right? It's hard to be selfish when you have a child because you have to think of that other person. You have to put them first, especially as a baby, because they can't do it without someone else helping them.
And also, how do you want them to grow up?
Absolutely.
How do you see them growing up?
Yeah,
What do you want?
you don't give as much thought of that in the beginning, right?
Yeah.
Unless you really are able to. I don't think, at least I personally didn't. I mean, I did to a degree, but that's more, I think, later on.
Yeah.
Definitely as you mature as a father, you can obviously you make mistakes as a father or as a parent, right? And so you learn from those as well, just like everything else. And so you can see that. You also learn from, I feel like, learning from the ones that were before you too, right? Learning from your parents. You say, well, I'm never going to do the things my parents did, my dad did, and then lo and behold, you find that, oh yeah, you're doing the exact same thing or saying the exact same things, right? But even just taking some of that wisdom, right? Today's day and age, Google can give us a lot of answers. We can find a lot of stuff on YouTube. Yeah, exactly. But yet we have all these generations before us that have done it. That seems like we made it to this point. I think we're doing okay. Just being able to take some of that advice from them as well, right? I think there's a lot of wisdom in that.
So what's been the greatest life lesson that you learned from your dad that maybe is flowing through you right now too?
Boy, that's a interesting and tough question. From my dad, hey? I've got a dad and I've got a stepdad. If I think that through, I don't know if I would know right off the top of my head here. Yeah. Guess maybe just, when I think about it now, just some of the sacrifices that were made to do the things. My mom and dad separated very early. And so just seeing the relationship and kind of where things went, and just knowing kind of probably what, that would be tough, right? I think of it as myself, if that was to have happened to me. Husband, we moved to Regina, he lived in Saskatoon, and, the back and forth, when I was a kid, I didn't see it that way. I always, there's times when he couldn't make it, and that hurt, and I just didn't understand, right? But now I get it. We live in a place in Saskatchewan where the roads and stuff doesn't always enable you to make those trips, or just life happening, right? You're not always able to do that. And so, just trying to be maybe a little bit more dependable and being there, I guess, would be one of the things that I've learned. But no, both of them did a fantastic job, and yeah, I've appreciated all of the wisdom they have. But yeah, nothing's really other than that popping into my head right now.
You know, like this might be a little personal, but like, of course, you answer it on your own,
Yeah.
the way you want it. So first of all, you said 27 years you've been with your wife.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, that's insane.
Yeah, thank you.
That's
Yeah.
amazing. When you mentioned that your parents separated early,
Mm-hmm.
of course that affects a child in some way. It has to.
Yeah.
Were there certain things in the back of your head that you're like, hey, this is what I want to avoid with my wife so that we have a long-lasting, healthy marriage?
Yeah, good question. I don't think so.
No?
Like thinking it through, not really. Like in my parents' situation, I was a love child. They conceived me, and then the next step was, okay, now you got to get married. And so that was kind of, the marriage was a little bit different in that. When I think of me and my wife, I mean, from a faith standpoint, we both are Christian, and so there isn't any other option, right? In my eyes, and so that not being something that was ever on the table, being separate, right, divorced or anything like that, and so no matter what happened, you just got to work your way through it, and so yeah, like from my own family side, no, I don't think there was anything that I thought. At least not that I actually thought. I mean, maybe in the back of my subconscious. I mean, we could get all psychological in here, but yeah, nothing that I can think of that I really focused on, other than maybe knowing that I always coming back to that love for her, and knowing that that when we first met, and that's only kind of grown since then. No matter what happened. That can always kind of fight its way through whatever circumstances you kind of go through.
That was beautiful, man.
Yeah, thanks.
Awesome. Okay, awesome. We'll move on to our end of the
You bet.
podcast.
Let's do it.
Okay, so I was going to ask you 3 questions. I'm going to ask you 3 questions. You have to answer in 1 word or 1 sentence.
1 word or 1 sentence. Okay, that's
you
the
can
tough
also
part.
go on forever if you have to.
Okay, sounds good.
Start us off.
Perfect. If you could give one piece of advice to 20-year-old Scott, what would that be?
Don't be an idiot. 20-year-old Scott, hey? Grow up. That would be my 1 word of advice. I mean, I was very blessed and fortunate to have found my wife because she was very much a redeeming grace for me, that I would not be the man that I am today had I not met her. So yeah, I would say to 20-year-old Scott, which would have just met her, don't screw this thing up.
Solid.
Awesome. What's the best investment decision you've ever made?
Oh, the best investment decision. Probably this again. It comes back to her. Yeah, like in terms like of an actual investment, I made a lot of bad ones, and so that's why I keep it simple. I mean, again, it's those learning ones, right?
Yes.
Like from just a strictly rate of return, I don't get crypto. I don't get Bitcoin. Just in terms of, I know how it works. It's just the why it goes up. I know why it goes up and down, but why it should go up and down. But I bought Bitcoin, and that has done very, very well for me. And I bought Bitcoin from the standpoint of it was something I was looking at that I would want as something that maybe should be in my client's portfolio. And before I put it in theirs, I want to have it on my own. And my clients still don't have it, and I have not added anything to it since. But it's done very well. So that's
Did you buy like a while ago?
It was probably 2 years ago, and
But that was still good though.
Yeah, well, it wasn't as good if you would have maybe bought it 10 years ago.
Oh, of course.
Right? But yeah, and again, it's just one of those things. It was, I bought it, didn't do anything. I also bought Ethereum at the same time. That was
that shot up too.
Well, it did, and then it's come right back down.
Yeah. I think I bought Ethereum like 3 years ago too.
Yeah.
I actually had a question for you. So I want to get into crypto, but I want to learn about it more. Like, as you said, you got to know about the investment. So do you have any book recommendations that I can read?
That's a good question. So a friend of mine does the Rational Reminder podcast. they did a whole series on crypto, and what they do very well is they take it from an evidence-based side. So they bring in a lot of professors and a lot of academics to kind of talk about it. So they did like a whole sub-series. So I would say dig into those podcasts. I think there was like 12 episodes that they did. Yeah, that's what I would recommend. Books-wise, I think they have books from there and all sorts of academic papers and stuff that they mention through there. But that's where I would probably lean you to go.
I've still yet to finish it, but the one I told you, the Bitcoin Standard, heard that one's pretty good.
Yeah, I haven't heard of it. I haven't. I think DeFi is the only book that I think I don't even know if I have it that I've really looked at on the crypto side. Most of what I've mine has been just podcasts and individual research. Yeah.
So, what are you most grateful for in your life right now?
What am I? My faith would probably be the first. My family would be the second. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. If you could make one rule that everybody in this world had to follow, what would that be?
Oh boy.
Don't buy a credit card.
No, I'd probably go somewhere else with that. If I could make one rule, man, I would have to say that there's two. They're kind of two parts, right? Love God and love your neighbor would probably be those two. The one, if we're not going that way, but love your neighbor, right? Would be the one rule. And I think that if you're loving other people, I think everything else kind of fixes itself.
So, what's something that you didn't value in the past, but now in the present moment you really do?
Quality items. I was cheap. I like things like, let's say, shoes or clothing, or when you're just starting out as a family, you just don't have the money to be able to do that. So things like Old Navy or Walmart or different places can be good. Now I'm more of a believer in buy something that's of good quality and it'll probably last a heck of a lot longer than those cheap things. What's that?
Lululemon.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, totally. Even things like sandals and stuff. We'd buy like the cheap sandals, and now I wear Ulakai. Is a really good. It's a much more expensive sandal, but they're just great on.
I'm more of a Birkenstocks guy.
Yeah. My wife is Birkenstock. My wife's Birkenstock.
Yeah, I would wear them in the winters too if I had to.
Yes, absolutely.
I feel like when you actually like put money in stuff, like it'll last longer. And if you buy cheap things, you end up paying more because you have to replace them more and more.
That's exactly it, right? And that's exactly it. By buying good quality, not only does it feel better and look better, but it also lasts a heck of a lot longer, right?
100%. Okay. What's the worst piece of advice I've ever heard?
Oh, the worst piece of advice I've ever heard? We'll take it to the financial side, and we'll go using life insurance as a investing tool.
Really?
Yeah. Life insurance is insurance for your life. It's not, there are situations where that can be but it's not a all-in-all tool for everybody, right? You have to be in a certain spot for that to make sense for you. And I just feel like it's sold as something that everybody, and when I talk about life insurance, I'm talking about like a whole life, permanent life type insurance policy. The problem with it is, you, especially in the early years, what you need is liquidity and flexibility, and you lose that, right? You just don't have it. So yeah, that would be what I would say.
Okay, I'll add one more question. This is my favorite question.
Yeah.
What's your favorite restaurant in Regina? Hard to ask it.
Favorite restaurant in Regina? There's a few. Where is kind of our go-to? Like our go-to is probably the Keg. I feel like that's not fair though, because it's local but not local. It's more of a chain. Caraway Grill is always a great place.
Really? You're the first person to say that.
Really? Yeah. Okay.
I haven't heard that yet.
Yeah. That would probably be, there's a few places we go, and usually, if it's like a quick burger, it's Fat Burger. Sorry, it's Fuddruckers. If it's more of a fancy meal, it's the Keg. And then like lunches, it's like Earls or the Moxies or Caraway Grill. J&A is a great little dim sum place downtown we like going to. But if I had to pick my favorite, I'm a pretty simple guy. Yeah. I don't even know. Yeah, probably. Yeah, I like Caraway. We'll go Caraway Grill.
Caraway
We'll go
And
Grill.
if you like Caraway Grill, Nikhil and I went to this place, the Chimney.
When? Oh yeah, the north,
In the north end.
yeah.
Yeah.
You'll like that place.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. I think it's not an old place. It's a pretty recent place.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Do you like spicy food?
To a certain degree.
Of course.
Yeah.
To a certain degree,
Yeah.
yes.
Because Caraway Grill is not spicy. Like it's made a little
Yes.
sweeter.
I feel
Yeah.
like you can ask them like
Yeah.
to not go.
Yeah,
like,
they
all,
ask you what
not
level
go all
you
Indian
want.
with the
Yeah,
spice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Try to like.
I do like spice, but I don't like hot just for the sake of being hot.
Well, you have to tell them that then.
Yeah, I want hot with
Yeah.
if it's got flavor, I'm
Yeah,
good.
of course. But I think you'll really enjoy the Chimney.
Yeah, okay.
But yeah, just tell them that easy on the spice, man.
Okay, okay, will do.
Yeah. Perfect.
Excellent.
Well, Scott, it's been an amazing conversation. Thank you so much. There's been so many, good lessons that we've learned along the way. And before you go, any final piece of advice for our viewers and our listeners?
No, I just think thanks again for having me, guys. You're doing a great job. The only advice would be hit the subscribe button.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Appreciate that. And also, guys, Scott has his own podcast. How about you plug that
Do
in?
yes, yeah. The Retire Ready podcast. It's on all of the. It's on the YouTube. It's on the Apple. It's on Spotify. We focus on more retirement planning type topics.
Perfect. And we'll link that in the description.
Beautiful.
So have fun, watch that, and thank you so much, Scott, again. Means a lot.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, guys.
Take care.